Harold H.B. Bell with Autism Parent Care, the Spectrum, and we are bringing you this broadcast weekly to try to bring information to a community that might not understand really what autism spectrum disorder is. Dr. Jane Yip is the founder of Autism Parent Care. My name is Harold H.B. Bell again. I'm a registered behavior technician out here at Autism Parent Care. And we have been talking about the parent-to-child dynamic, parent-to-parent dynamic, what you should do after you find out your child is autistic or on the spectrum. And Jane, I guess one of the things that we need to talk about now is what is the adjusted way to handle a special need child who is on the spectrum or any other special need child?
So first of all, it's our expectations, you see, and which we discussed a little bit before this. And expectation means what you expect in your mind. If your expectation is too high, you want your kid to be fixed, so-called, and become like a neurotypical child, you're going to be always frustrated, right? Because this is not realistic. So, and you will be unhappy, you will go from provider to provider because this person is not good, that person is not good, you're going to be full of frustration. And that does not help because you're not moving ahead in your goal.
So if that's the reality, then what we really need to do is find out, since your child isn't normal and your child isn't going to do things stereotypically as the normal child does, we have to learn out how this autistic child thinks, what's inside that child's mind, what is he attracted to, what moves him and stimulates him, right?
Correct, yes. Yep, you got to have that, and everyone has potential. We really don't know how and where they will land. I'm not saying to not have high expectations, I'm just saying not too high. It's just like Goldilocks, it's got to be the right.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And it cannot be too low either.
You know, and I love this, and the transitions are great because we're talking about functional normalcy. We're talking about semantics, basically. And there's a word that I just really despise, and it's called disabled. And your autistic child does not have to be disabled. Your autistic child has to be guided and taught how to function by the way that its mind is thinking. Talk about that, because too many times we get this word disabled in the way, and then it stops us from thinking that our child can grow up to be something special.
Well, that again relates back to the question of expectation. When your expectation is too low, then you think that your child is disabled in the sense that the kid cannot do things for himself or herself, right? So cannot feed herself or himself, or cannot do this and that, so you're going to do it for them. And that's how you make them disabled.
I'm smiling because I watch our children when they prepare their lunch. And the next topic that we're talking about is just prepare your child like he's a normal child in this real world that he's living in, and he'll be able to function and adapt. And we're watching all these kids come in, they can prepare their own lunch. They know what they want to play with. If you tell them to go do something, they know how to do it. So disabled to me would sound like something that child can't do anything. And now when you're saying let's prepare them for this world just like they're a normal child, talk about how important that is, not only for the parent, but for the child's self-esteem.
Yes, so basically, you prepare them to face the world just like a normal child in the way that they take care of their needs. Self-care, toileting, showering, feeding, looking after their safety. That means you don't run into cars. You do need to have that kind of preparation. They may not know it, but you can train it. Again and again, you have to have the practice. That's one of the preparation. So think of all the preparation you need for your neurotypical, you do that. The other layer is, guess what? They can speak politely to you.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to be abused, by the way. So, you teach your neurotypical child to speak politely to you. You do the same with your child on the spectrum.
And when we talk about neurotypical, what Dr. Jane is talking about, your child that is born and they're not on the spectrum, they're not needing assistance to function on a daily basis with the basics. We get that mixed up with being able to provide great therapy and treatment for these children. So the preparation is going to be a little bit more extensive. But the way we go about preparing is still going to be, you're a normal child, but we have to be a little bit more prepared in what we do. Talk about some of the things that we need to do to understand and preparing.
No, the same thing, academics. We tend to think that if they behave okay, they don't need to have the same pressure of schooling that a neurotypical child has. But I beg to differ because many of them are pretty smart and they have the ability, they are blocks. And don't be sidetracked by the blocks.
Because they can still manipulate just because they're on the system. They know how to get out of what they want to do.
Yes, they can read, they can do math, they can do all the academics, they are smart, they are manipulative, they are strategic.
And that's the reason I love this series that we're doing as we close this down, things that you need to do and the ways that you can handle your special need child, because what Dr. Yip is saying, autism is such a varied field of minds that sometimes you're sitting up talking to someone on the spectrum and you wouldn't have a clue if you didn't know, but some of the differences they have are kind of hidden and you would only know if you were a therapist or someone who has Dr. Yip's credentials. We're going to come back. When we come back, we want to talk about some different things about what Dr. Yip has told me about autism, some things that you can maybe learn, and we're going to get candid in this segment here because there are a lot of things that you can do. Child with special needs, it's a family affair. Everybody's going to have to be involved. You're listening to The Spectrum, Autism Parent Care.